I'm Jasmine Burton, aka Finesse Squire.
I'm Elizabeth Booker Houston, aka Booker Squared. We are both lawyers and comedians, and this is No Distractions,
where we're cutting through all the political BS. And so much is going on, which I think the first thing we want to talk about is
the Supreme Court decision regarding temporary restraining orders. And you know, that man, 4547. Everybody thought that he was just going to be slam dunk winning in court because he handpicked this very conservative Roberts Court on the Supreme Court. They have the majority. It is 6 conservative justices and only 3 liberal justices, okay? Shout out to Ketanji Brown Jackson, Alina Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor. Y'all are holding it down over there, okay? But everybody thought this was going to be a slam dunk. They were like, if you just file lawsuits against him, he's just going to take everything to the Supreme Court and he's just going to win. First of all, the Supreme Court only hears about 80 cases a year. They don't have time for that, right? And he's being sued all over the place. Like, these are not all going to make it up there.
Exactly.
But for the first one, this was regarding the temporary restraining order put on Trump firing the special counsel. So there was a restraining order put in at the district court level, the federal courts, and they said, you know, we're going to put a temporary restraining order in. You can't just like fire this guy right now like you want to. And his administration made the argument up to the Supreme Court. They said, hey, we should be able to do that. And in a surprising 7-2 decision, they said, we're not interfering in this temporary restraining order. It is what it is, and we're not getting involved. And the only 2 people to dissent were Gorsuch and Alito, which was not surprising.
Right. Well, also, this is so gangster of the Supreme Court, because shout out for them voting in our favor a little bit, I feel like, which I didn't expect. But also, I feel like it's because they're all lawyers. I feel like they probably understand this in a way that most people don't. If he was allowed to do that, that would actually be like a gross miscarriage of justice in my ideas.
That's the interesting thing about this. So in the opinion, in the dissent that Gorsuch drafted, which Neil Gorsuch hates executive agencies. He hates administrative law. He wants to get rid of all of it. He's a hot ass mess. But then you have Alito, and we know Alito is just the worst. The thing about the dissent is he made the argument that we can't allow this to happen because there's nothing in history that says that the president can't just fire people he doesn't want to work with. And I'm like, baby, Marbury versus Madison.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little confused. And for those who don't know, Marbury versus Madison, very old case, it establishes judicial review, which is the idea that federal courts are able to review or, you know, look at what's going on in the executive branch and what's going on there.
Not checks and balances coming through.
Checks and balances coming through. This whole thing with the temporary restraining order, this is a good sign because it means that the Supreme Court is not going to step in for any of the TROs for these cases. This will embolden all of the lower court judges to put more and more restraining orders on this administration's actions because they know that the Supreme Court is not going to overturn it.
The Supreme Court said, my name is Bennett and I'm not in it.
That's exactly what they said. That's exactly what they said.
Right.
The Supreme Court was like, no, what?
Find somebody else to do it.
Find somebody else to do it. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Anyway, so we saw that there is a temporary restraining order placed on the executive order that is trying to halt gender-affirming care. 2 federal judges have put in TROs for this. And everybody was like, hey, but what if they just don't comply? I get it. That is a worry. We are worried about constitutional crises, but they did comply because HHS sent out a memo making all of the employees aware of these restraining orders and that they could no longer take actions on blocking gender-affirming care for trans youth while these restraining orders are in place. So they are complying. They shake. They shake. Like, I know they come off big, bad, and tough with everything they're trying to do, but this administration... Wait a minute. What do they like to call us? What
DEI? The DEI hires? The DEI hires
what's going on
against meritocracy. So a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction that bars the administration from terminating or changing contracts that they believe are equity-based, which is huge because I think so many people, even before this was happening, were preliminarily issuing things within their company just to assume compliance with the executive orders. Yeah. They didn't want to become a target, so now they're doing all of these things. But it's nice to have this decision because now they're saying, no, you cannot do this. You don't need to terminate contracts just because they're equity based. So companies actually don't have to do it preemptively either. So
they said they wanted to get rid of DEI, and the federal judges are saying no because it is a content-based speech restriction. We talk about free speech. All these people on the right, they talk about, oh my God, it's the left that's wanting to censor everything. This is censorship, and it's illegal censorship because you cannot have a content-based speech restriction that doesn't adhere to strict scrutiny.
Right.
And this does not, which is a whole legal standard that is very complex.
And the craziest part for me is now that all of these things are kind of being erased, or DEI programs being erased, positions, all of these things, the number of people that have come out in the news saying that they have been affected and they didn't expect they would be affected is hilarious. Because when you think of it, you think of, oh, this benefits black people, oh, this benefits, but white women are like, wait, what's happening? My daughter is, and it's like, oh, you didn't know.
They met you too. They met you too. It is very frustrating to see a lot of people pushing for this meritocracy, especially with the federal workforce, the attack on federal workers. And they're just like, oh, they're not qualified to be there. I'm like, if they had 34 felony convictions,
exactly,
they would not qualify for their clearances to do their jobs. Just because he won slightly in a popularity contest, let it be known that that man, more people voted against him than voted for him.
Yeah.
Let's keep that in mind. And a lot of people stayed home and did not vote. But he is not at all qualified. Like, he is, you know, they want to use DEI as a slur, as a bad thing, as like didn't earn it. He is the epitome of didn't earn it.
Well, he also he made me mad because he blamed the plane crash on DEI, and I'm like, we don't even know the race of the pilot. First of all, I feel like he just heard Black Hawk and started thinking about black people, and now brought DEI in it, which made me upset.
That was it. He didn't know what that meant. It was like, oh, okay.
Oh, my bad. I thought
he
the
just
pilot
heard the word black, and he was just like, you know, black people. A mess.
And there's one more thing we wanted to talk about.
There is one more thing, and that is the federal workforce being brought back in a lot of capacities, okay? So there was a mass illegal termination of HHS employees. Now, all of a sudden, there's a bunch of folks who are being asked to come back. And you know why that is?
Why?
The first main reason is that the device manufacturing industry put a lot of pressure on the administration, because what a lot of people don't know, and what Elon Musk and all these people don't want you to know, is that there are a lot of federal employees who are not paid by taxpayer dollars. And so they fired a lot of people who are funded by user fees from industry, like the device manufacturers industry. They fired those folks who are not paid by tax dollars and instead wasted industry's money that they have paid, and industry got mad. And so I just want to point out to folks that if this keeps happening, your tax dollars were not paying a lot of these folks' salaries in the first place. And that's something to keep in mind when we're talking about fraud, waste, and abuse and efficiency. I just feel like that's being lost in the conversation. But they've asked FDA employees to come back, especially folks in the Center for Devices and Radiological Health, or CDRH, because they need them.
Right. We need to be like Wolf of Wall Street, and just when they tell us we have to go, we have to just be like, I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not. There have been some people who have said that, though, right? Ellen Weintraub, who is the chair of the Federal Election Commission, Trump tried to fire her, and she said, this is invalid. No.
This is invalid. That's the energy I need to keep.
That is the energy.
If a man tries to leave me, this is invalid. We're staying together.
We're staying together. I feel like a lot of people think that they're just sweeping and winning and getting away with everything, but this is what we need to get out to the public, to let them know, no, they are losing in many, many venues, in many ways.
Hello, mainstream media. This is what we need to get out to the public. Let people know that they are losing, that we are winning, that we have numbers. Biggest part, we have numbers.
We have numbers. There are more of us than them. There are more of us than the billionaires. There's no reason that we are allowing unelected billionaires to run our country and do things that hurt American people.
Right.
We have to rise up, and we have to stay strong. We have to make sure to keep fighting back. That's what it comes down to.
Right. And not get tired. Stay vigilant. Stay woke. Wait. Remember that Nigerian prince email scam?
Yeah, where they would be like, oh, I'm a Nigerian prince, and I have so much money. Right. You send me a little bit of money, I will send you millions of dollars.
Yeah. Who's doing that now?
Elon Musk. That's the new African scam right there. That is the new African scam.
Elon Musk's son, though, can we give him an award? Because he went in the White House and was like, you don't belong in that chair. That's my daddy's chair.
His son was like, look, I know who's actually running the show around here. And that's the craziest part. They're letting this shadow president take over and do whatever. And I'm just sitting here like,
I'm surprised their white male egos haven't butted heads yet.
I think it's coming soon. I think they're definitely going to start butting heads. And it is, you know, when we talk about people fighting back, I do also want to give a shout out to what I saw from the Senate Democrats in person this past week. They did the vote-a-rama. They stayed in the Capitol all night. I was in there at 1 a.m.
Yeah, I saw you.
I was talking to Senator Angela Also Brooks. We adore her. First Black woman senator from Maryland.
Love it.
She was there with all of her colleagues and just fighting really hard to, you know, stop Republicans the best they could, or at least slow down their process. Even if you can't stop everything, let's just be a thorn in their side. Let's try to make it as difficult as possible. Don't roll over and take it. Let's make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They were making it as difficult as possible for the GOP to pass tax law that benefits billionaires and only cuts down the working class even more.
I love that. Well, shout out to them for fighting for our rights at 1 a.m. because you know me, I'm asleep. The good fight is over at midnight.
Stay woke.
How do I stay woke but also give my 9 hours?
I don't know, girl. It's a rough time. I would like to put a request in for some precedented times for just
some precedent.
I would like
just a little bit. A little breather.
Who's that what Dochi said?